Kind of the hard thing about some teaching styles of jiu-jitsu, and you have to blend. There's this whole new approach. I'd say it's not new, but it's been done before, that they call ecological. So you're not really teaching the ecological constraints-led approach. What that means is, I'm not teaching you a technique. I'm teaching you what position your body needs to be in and then the goal that you want to do it. So I'm constraining you just to this kind of like small area that I want you to get good at. Maybe it's single leg defense or single leg offense where it's like, okay, all I want you to do as the person is getting out of the single leg and don't hit your butt and don't hit your hands. So if the guy lifts your leg and you touch your hands on the mat, that's part of the game. So it's a lot of this gamification, which is really good. I like to blend it into my teaching. I don't like to do all of that because I think technique is important, but it's really hard to remember technique because it's like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that. And that's why I give things like, especially with beginners, I don't need you to do the move 100% correct. I need you to do like 70% correct. And then once you start to do that, then I'll add on details and like add on things. But if I overwhelm you with a bunch of stuff, it's gone, dude. It's like you're not going to, and while you're thinking of exactly how to move your body, that person's out of there.
Time to think when it comes to actual rolling, it has to be like almost like a motor skill. Like I'm not thinking like, I'm kind of subconsciously thinking about like maybe I'm going to go for an arm or I'm going to attack this part of the body.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing.
But if I tell you, turn his face, control the hips, and just leave it at that, you'll do the right stuff. You'll come up with the right stuff. And as long as you're like focusing on a small task rather than, okay, you need to cross face the guy, you need to get hip to hip here and get your elbow in the hip and like start giving you 5, 6, 7 things to focus on, that ain't going to happen. But if I give you 1 or 2 or 3 things, then it's like, okay, he's doing the right things. Now we can move on. Now it's like, okay, we transition to this position, or, oh, now the arm's going to expose itself and boom, we're going to attack the arm. So yeah, I think it's
you're kind of looking for vulnerabilities in your partner, honestly.
Yes. Yeah. Immobilize, control the guy. Jiu-jitsu is controlling the person, breaking them, either like breaking their will, breaking their arm, whatever, and then strangling them. That's simple at at the very basic level, right? And a lot of the style is I'm going to control them. I'm going to break their will. They're going to get tired because I'm not spending a lot of energy. I'm getting them tired. And then when they make a mistake, I choke them. That's it. Just keeping it nice and simple like that instead of all these techniques, because you could go on a rabbit hole of techniques.
Oh my
techniques
God.
are
There's
great.
so many. Like,
yeah.
Especially when you start getting into like all the crazy like rubber guards and
huge systems that you have to remember, of just like in all these different avenues that you could go with the system, And my coach Neil, he was in the Navy, so kind of a military guy, tough Navy dude. But he always said tactics over techniques. Because tactics you'll remember, like just don't let their elbow hit the mat. That's it. Instead of being like, okay, we're going to do this technique where I pull the elbow off the mat, then I sit here, then I do that. It's like, just don't, keep their shoulder flat to the mat. That's it. That's the tactic. You're not going to overwhelm yourself with just one little tactic like that, and you'll get a lot more accomplished. So
you kind of have a bit more confidence too, because if you start thinking like, oh, I screwed that up or I didn't do that right.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. I also, notes is good. I like to create what's called a mind map, where it's like that will help you break down a system of like you have like half guard in one bubble, and then from half guard you have your sweeps from half guard, and then maybe all these different sweeps that you can go off of, and
so what you can build off of.
Exactly. It helps you break down.
I've never thought about that. That's cool.
It helps you break down a system of half guard or mount or whatever position it is, and then that'll help you break down the sequences. Like, oh, okay, they shrimp, I do this. They give their back up, I do this.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. So then, I guess what would be the start of that circle?
It could be any. It could be mount, maybe.
Okay, so you have multiple different ones.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
Like one thing you start with and everything branches off of there.
Right.
Got you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about jiu-jitsu. People are always like, it's a weird thing to learn. It's not like shooting a basketball where that's pretty simple, or dribbling a ball, or even striking where it's like you throw a jab, throw a cross, throw some kicks. jiu-jitsu is like you have these different positions that you start in, and you got to hit them all and like make sense of them all, but also work on them separately. So it's very confusing, but it's not like most learning things you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You might go from A to Z to T to another, point. So it's tricky to teach. And that's why the ecological stuff is good to add in, because it's like, well, just learn the basics. What is the position my body's supposed to be in that's structurally strong and sound, where it's like I cannot break this person because they're just in a good structure,
Experiencing different schools too is
Yeah.
because I've had so many wild experiences traveling. Like if I'm in a city for a couple weeks and I was still wanted to train, some gyms won't even accept you. They're like, yeah, sorry, we don't take walk-ins. We don't know you. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, fuck off then.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go
Yeah.
next door or whatever,
Yeah.
But for the most part, like the community is pretty accepting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just interesting to see. You can definitely tell the level of coaching when you get on the mat with somebody and what's going on. And
yeah, you get to see, that's the cool thing. I mean, that's the old school martial artist kind of philosophy, is like guys would travel to different, martial arts and pick up different techniques, kind of like a Bruce Lee, right? Like that's really what he's known for, is like,
because if you stay in the same closet all the time, right?
Yeah, you're just gonna have the same style, and that style might not fit your body type, your personality, your attributes, whatever that may be. So it's good to cross train. Like I have, I feel if people want to go train somewhere else and go do an open mat or whatever, I'm cool with that. I have no problem.
That's kind of how I felt, and this is no knock on them, but that's how I felt about walking into a 10th Planet. It's just not structured for a guy my size, like or with my flexibility.
Times,
Like
there's some guys, I know some big guys that probably, they have that are 10th Planet guys that could help you, but that's definitely it. If you're a big guy going into a school with a really skinny small guy that's doing rubber guard and all these things, and his attributes are flexibility, and your attribute probably not flexibility, right?
No, dude,
strength, size.
It should be flexibility, but I'm using my strength a lot more than,
which is totally fine,
right?
And that's why, as a coach, I try to learn from big guys, small guys my size, and I wouldn't have you do the same technique as a small guy.